Today I'm going to be talking about our advocacy plan for our global issue which we picked, which is accessibility. In both Brazil and the United States, this issue affects all disabled individuals of all ages. On a global scale, this issue is national. 15% of the world's population experiences some form of disability, and the prevalence of disability is higher for developing countries. The reason this issue is global is because people with disabilities are more likely to experience adverse socioeconomic outcomes, such as less education, high poverty rates, poorer health outcomes, and lower levels of employment. With the current pandemic, these effects are even more likely to occur. In terms of historical perspective, the United States has had a historical perspective that is much different than what it is today. In colonial America, individuals with disabilities were often grouped with criminals and paupers and were extremely discriminated against. If one had a disability, they were sent to an insane asylum. Changes in treatments of people with disabilities didn't emerge until the disability rights movement, which began in the early 20th century, and people advocated for rights and self-advocacy. The historical perspective of Brazil on accessibility is very similar to that of the United States. During the period between 1960 and 1981, Brazil experienced many disability rights movements at an international level. People were advocating for equal access and treatment because up until then they were treated much like they were crazy, very similar to the United States. Although they now have legislation in place to protect these individuals, there are still many incidences of people with impairments being violated in Brazilian society. On that topic, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of these historical perspectives. The pros lie in the fact that public policies have advanced a lot towards the well-being of populations with disabilities, both in the United States and in Brazil. People began to get angry and they began to fight for their rights, which helped to greatly reduce prejudice and stigma in this segment of the population. The cons lie in the fact that people with disabilities, despite having overcome the fact of being considered crazy or indignant, still suffer daily from veiled prejudices and lack of application of public policies created.
The pros lie in the fact that public policies have advanced a lot towards the well-being of population with disability, both in the US and Brazil. People began to get angry and fight for the rights of people with disability, which helped to greatly reduce prejudice and stigma in the segment of population. The cons lie in the fact that people with disability, despite having overcome the fact of being crazy or indigent, still suffer daily from bad practices and lack of application of public policies created. The Brazilian Institute of Geographic and Statistics carried out a data survey informed that around 24% of Brazilian population has some type of disability. The survey did not define the type of disability, but certain this group of people overcome challenge every day when moving around Brazilian cities. Brazil has one of the best legislations on the accessibility theme in the world, but unfortunately the laws are not fully complied, unlike the USA, which has implemented the laws, developed public-private partnership with the aim of developing tools that can help with the accessibility. For example, Amazon Alexa is the software behind that contains devices that are voice controls such as Echo. For your customer in general, it represents the ability to access music or information about the weather. Regarding the visual impaired, it's not more than that. Alexa has used in the government pilot project to make the state's digital environment for accessibility.
So step 4 of our advocacy plan is identifying our target. So what agency or governing body has the authority to make change? Well, we know legislators have the ability to make change we're seeking. In addition, it's not just legislators, but individuals that can enforce legislation. In the United States, the Department of Justice is the one that can help enforce legislation and can ensure uniform compliance. In Brazil, their equivalents have the authority to make change, as well as architects that influence the design and structure of many buildings that affect accessibility. For funding, there are many organizations whose primary goal is to help individuals with disabilities. In the US, this includes American Association of People with Disabilities and the ARC of the United States. In Brazil, this includes the Brazilian Institute for the Rights of the Disabled Person. Now, why is this issue so prevalent? Why is it so important? What statistics show the need for this work? Well, in Brazil, some facts that show the need for this work include that Rio has only one functioning road crossing for the blind. In addition, a recent poll showed that over 80% of disabled people in Brazil didn't even feel respected as citizens of the country because they have difficulty finding work and getting around. In the United States, some facts that show this need include the enforcement of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's very inconsistent as there's no accessibility police. right? Those advocating for legislation enforcement are disabled individuals and disability organizations. In addition, with the current pandemic, accessibility for individuals with disabilities is even more urgent. They are at higher than average risk from COVID 19.
The US, being much more advanced in the application of improvement in the condition of people with disability, could join Brazil to improve and adapt the excellent laws created in Brazil. Brazil, in turn, could be inspired by the public-private partnership made in the USA as a model to apply these laws. As I started early, the USA has put into practice these laws and developed a public-private partnership with the aim of developing tools that can help with the accessibility. That is, investing a lot in technology to help with this accessibility. Another example is the University of Washington Center of Accessibility Technology. Create the Access Map. The application shows better roads for people with this physical disability and is already used in the city of Seattle. Users can request destination data and parameters to filter roads as needed. In short, the USA, despite having fewer laws aimed at the population with disability, invests much more and is much more concerned with the issues of accessibility, leaving Brazil to join USA as a progress of state-of-the-art technology so that the laws are applied and the living condition of population with disability improve.